Joining me now, attorney and Democratic strategist Jan Ronis. Jan, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening. Thank you.
All right, Jan, let's start with this question of the day today. You heard it in the introduction. Even Democrats who are opposing this Obamacare repeal bill that's in Congress right now, they acknowledge that there are problems with Obamacare that do need to be fixed. The only thing, their solution is to push our health care into a single-payer system, not to put it back with a free market. Jan, you're a Democrat, you're a liberal. I want to ask you this question directly. Are you comfortable with the idea of what happens to nations, to a people, when in socialist countries, when the government exerts so much control over certain industries?
Well, of course I'm not. First of all, we're not a socialist country, never have been, and not even close. And secondly, Venezuela is a dictatorship, has been for decades, you know, under the guise of a democracy. And it really isn't a democracy. Hugo Chavez was a dictator ruled by edict. Maduro inherited his mantle and has tried to mirror his administration like his, and it's really is a dictatorship, and a corrupt dictatorship, incompetent. And it's really, the economy is a one industry economy, which is oil, and they're on the ropes. It's got nothing to do with Obamacare.
No, I think it has everything to do with it. Sure. I think because it is a dictatorship, that's my point. Right. The point of the segment is Venezuela has devolved into a dictatorship, but it started just as a socialist nation. It started as Hugo Chavez, you know, nationalizing these different industries. For them, it was oil. For here, it's starting with healthcare. We see what happens when government takes control of different industries. They run out of options. They can't meet the demand from the people. There's a supply shortage, and so they exert more control, and inevitably it leads to a dictatorship. I don't understand how Democrats don't learn these lessons from history that's happening right now.
Well, look, we're not even close to a dictatorship. We're not even close to being on the ropes economically. In fact, we're not even on the ropes economically. We're a prosperous nation, and we're a nation that can afford, among other things, universal health coverage, whether it's in a single-payer system or improve upon Obamacare, which obviously has some improvements that need to be made. Democrats aren't proposing only a single-payer system. That is a solution that some seek, but there are fixes that need to be made to Obamacare. And, you know, the Republicans have failed in an effort to replace it, and the Democrats are only trying to improve on what President Obama established.
Right. No argument there that the Republicans have failed. We'll talk about that later in the show. But, Jen, let me ask you this then. What makes us different? We're not a socialist nation. Like you said, we're not a dictatorship. But part of the responsibility of being the stewards of a free nation, being the stewards of a constitutional republic, is ensuring that government doesn't encroach on our freedoms. That's why we have our Constitution. That's why we have limited powers enumerated to our government, so that they don't exert control. What would make us different if we give up some of those freedoms, if we give up control of our healthcare system to the government, if we implement a single-payer system? What would make us different and prevent us from devolving into what amounts to a socialist industry?
Well, first of all, if we were to implement a single-payer system, it would be through the democratic process. It would be something that would be voted on by the House of Representatives, confirmed by the Senate, and then signed by the President. So if in fact, we implemented such a system, it wouldn't be by anything other than democratic.
The signing away of the freedom. The signing away of the freedom might be democratic, but once it's been nationalized, what would cause it then? What would prevent us then from devolving into a situation like we saw with Cuba's healthcare, or with Canada's healthcare, or in Venezuela?
Well, because we're not Cuba, we're not Venezuela. We are, to some extent, like Canada. It's a democratic, capitalist nation with a tinge of social democracy, much like us. But there are things that distinguish us from all these other nations on Earth. This is why everybody wants to come here. We have a 225-plus year history of civility, social democracy, capitalism. So we're a complicated nation that goes along just well, and we always resist the evils and temptations and failures of other nations because of the openness of this country and the free exchange of ideas and things of that nature. We can pick and choose from the failures of other countries, as we always have and always will.
Right, and that's what I'm asking. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Our nation is a beacon of freedom. People want to come here. Our nation is #1 in the world, not because Donald Trump says so, but because we are the freest. We have the most opportunity for anyone of any socioeconomic background, any gender, any religion, any gender identity here. Those are the things that distinguish us. If we resist, like you say, if we resist giving away our freedom, isn't this a critical time to resist that when our healthcare industry is in turmoil and there is the temptation to trade some of our liberty for the idea of security?
Well, keep in mind that the healthcare system is only in turmoil right now because of the uncertainty of whether Obamacare is going to continue or the Republican plan is going to be implemented, and there are going to be massive changes and dislocations. But if it's in turmoil, it was very stable during the last 6 years of the Obama administration with Obamacare, And certainly, if we continue down that road, it's going to be even a better system if the improvements are made that need to be made. It's not a perfect system. Remember, Social Security has been changed often. Medicare has been changed often. And as I've said before in this program, they're two of the most successful programs ever conducted by the federal government.
Right, and I knew, we talk all the time, we're friends, I knew you were going to bring up Medicare. These are some of the problems with Medicare, and these are just objective problems. There's so much bureaucracy that they have a hard time making changes. There are gaps in coverage. I mean, everyone's seen the late night TV commercials for the supplemental insurance. It doesn't cover, single-payer health care doesn't cover everything that people deem themselves necessary, everything that they think that they need medically. The government doesn't issue them, doesn't say that they can get. There's a problem with the quality of care because there's no competition. There's pricing. The pricing models for medical services is terrible. There's not as much personal freedom for patients. The professional independence of doctors has been completely encroached upon. And then there's billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse in spending. Is that really a system that we want to copy across our whole nation for everyone's health care?
Well, I suspect if you were to take a poll of the hundreds of millions of senior citizens that get tremendous benefit from Medicare, and you talk to them about replacing this or eliminating it, the nation would be up in arms. So it is a very successful program. If there's improvements to be made and somebody offers those improvements to me or to the government to make it a better program, then I'm all for it. But it has worked wonderfully, saved millions of lives and given people comfort with the thought that as they approach old age, that they will have medical coverage.
Right, Jan, that's no, you're missing my point. That's not the point I'm making. I'm not saying we should abolish Medicare. I'm saying with a problem that serves as small of a number of people compared to how many people live in our country and need health care, as Medicare that has as rampant of problems with bad care, expensive, and supply shortage of services, is that really a system that we want to copy so that everyone, not just the elderly, experience those things too?
Keep in mind, it's not a perfect system. It's a great system. And if that system could be replicated in a single-payer system for all Americans, not just Americans 65 and older, 64 and older, we'd be a far better nation in terms of that aspect of our society as we are presently.
And I will have to agree to disagree because I do not think that's what would happen. I think there'd be a shortage, people would end up paying out of pocket, the quality would be low, and government would have control of our lives, and I, for one, want to protect against that. Jan, thanks so much for being on the show. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.